Hello YouTube, and welcome back to another Let's Talk with Soulful. Before I get into this, I just want to say thanks to all the subs, people who are coming to see my tarot readings. It has exploded. I think as I do this video, we're at about almost 290 or it's 280, something like that. But I won't be talking in this video about tarot readings. Today in this video, I want to talk about narcissism, okay, and spirituality. All right. So first, I'm going to talk about my experience around narcissism just a little bit. I won't go too into detail, but when I say narcissism, I mean unhealthy narcissism, because all of us, we all have narcissism to a certain degree. Okay, we all have that quality. Just it's all about how much you're accessing that part of yourself. Okay, whether or not you have had to use narcissism in a way to protect yourself, or whether or not you have a personality disorder, there are varying degrees for everybody of narcissism. We are not all free from narcissism, and only people who have, say, NPD or any kind of pathology that is a personality disorder have narcissism. Okay, all right, so with that out of the way, I want to go ahead and just talk a little bit about my experience with NPD. I've experienced 2 or 3 people in my life with high levels of narcissism, and I've also experienced someone with borderline personality disorder, someone with full-blown NPD who was diagnosed, and I've also experienced someone who was a sociopath. Okay, so in the past, I used to draw people like this to me like a flame, because I am empathic. Okay, if you're more of a person, I'm not saying that people who aren't empaths lack empathy. Okay, everybody has empathy. It's certain degrees of it. Okay, but if you are someone who is highly empathic, someone who cares for others above yourself, okay, if you're someone who automatically puts that energy out there, and I am a Pisces sun, okay, so the Pisces have a tendency to overgive themselves until they get into a healthier sort of mindset. And again, it's all about your whole chart and what's going on there. So look into your chart if you're curious about that. Just because you're a Pisces sun doesn't mean that's all you are. There's more to you. Okay, so you got to look a little deeper. Find your strengths. You can find your strengths in your chart. But anyway, astrology aside, what I'm saying here is that in my experience, until you actually embolden yourself enough to understand how this pathology works and to understand the dynamics of it on a mental level, okay, on a psychological level, it's going to be hard if you're an energy worker, or if you're someone who is working with their spiritual path, or is coming into an understanding of this pathology. And yes, you can learn about this while on your spiritual path. It's actually quite a lesson for a lot of people who have stepped into the awakening path. Okay, you will be learning about narcissism, about personality disorders, how people around you act. Okay, what are their masks? What is going on with people that you're close to? You're going to start seeing some shifts in your reality. Okay, so when I talk about, I want to talk a little bit about narcissism and the energy dynamics. I wrote an article not long ago on Medium. Okay, I also like to write. That's one of the things I love to do. I've been writing since I was a kid as well. And in this article, I talk about how the unhealthy narcissism and people who may have NPD, okay, the way that the energy dynamics work, okay. And when it comes to someone who is pathological, or someone who is repeating cycles of behavior, repeating emotional manipulation, or trying to get a fix, or they just use others, okay? This doesn't have to be someone who's just a narcissist. This could be someone who's manipulative, emotionally manipulative. The energy of a person that operates in those cycles is very low density. And what can happen if you're someone who operates with their heart on their sleeve, you have an open energy. You have an open sort of, you're not really protecting yourself as much if you haven't worked much on yourself. You may have wounds from when you were a kid. You may have wounds that you haven't healed yet, things that you haven't actually addressed that draw these kinds of things into you, okay? It's almost like a puzzle piece, okay? They both fit. Okay, they fit really well. But the reason they fit is so you can learn and heal and empower yourself so that you can move away from having to interact with people like that. 9 times out of 10, okay, when I've worked with people, I also have done mentoring. Okay, I do mentoring. It's just my services are currently closed because I've been doing a lot of this, but I do mentoring, spiritual mentoring. That 9 times out of 10, the people that I've known or that I've worked with, they don't really, they haven't really understood how to stop, okay, allowing themselves to engage in these kinds of dynamics. And the problem really has to do with the way that you haven't really addressed yourself, because a narcissist or someone who has that kind of pathology or high levels of narcissism is reflecting back to you. Okay, they are constantly in a state of reflection. I don't know if you've ever looked into the eyes of a sociopath. Okay, it is like looking into a mirror, because the way that these people work is they mirror back. They mirror you back at yourself on a level that just will blow your mind if you really think about it. You know that if you've looked into the eyes, it's like a mirror. It's like black sometimes when you look in that, and it's about our darkness. Okay, when our own shadow, when you're going through the work of working on the aspects of yourself that have to do with narcissism and empathy, and the dynamic that you have been playing out if you have been a victim, okay, to this more than once. The dynamic that plays out fits like a glove. So the best way to remove yourself from that is to take power over yourself. To understand, to learn how to put boundaries up, to study the psychological warfare that's going on inside you when someone gaslights you, when someone does crazy making, okay? I want to go ahead and suggest the channel Richard Grannon. I don't know if you've ever seen his emotional literacy course. Perfect, amazing. That helped me get through a lot of, trying to understand how in the past, I dealt with these kinds of people in my life, even was raised with these kinds of people in my life. Okay. And most people who have gifts or people who, have awakenings, they have probably experienced these types of people more than once. You can also research organic portals, okay? Types of humans here on Earth called organic portals. If you look into that, it's a spiritual concept, okay? It might actually help you learn to understand a little bit more how this works. So when you are constantly investing and giving your empathy and your compassion, and you're waiting to see if someone will jump out of a cycle simply by you giving, it's just doesn't work like that. Because what happens is the energy dynamic is that it just sucks up the energy. It doesn't really consider consciously what's going on. Okay, when this dynamic is going on, there is, again, like I said, those two plugs that connect. So if you're always giving your energy, because everything has energy behind it, if you're always giving your energy to someone that has this kind of pathology, or someone that is just really stuck in cycles where they only care about themselves, it's just going to keep going that way. Because to be able to engage in your own energetic work, it requires some consciousness. It requires you to be aware of yourself and what kind of things you're falling either victim to, or what kind of dynamics you're allowing yourself to play out, okay, on many levels: relationship, family, personally, at work, you have, it takes some conscious ability to be able to look at yourself and see what you are doing to keep yourself stuck there, to keep yourself stuck in this kind of spiritual dynamic. But it's a test, okay? When you have been repeatedly shown these kinds of people, it is a test of your ability to heal inside, your ability to go deep into the wounds that are attracting these, and I mean people that are really toxic, okay, that are attracting toxic things to you. I'm not saying that you made the choice to interact with that person, but what I am saying is that you are responsible for what it is that you do with your energy. You are responsible for whether you give it or you keep it to yourself, whether you take energy from other people or they give to you. You are responsible for that. And a lot of times it's very hard for people to understand that they need to, while they're on a spiritual path, and I'll talk about spiritual bypassing in another video, when they're on a pathway that has them addressing their inner truth, who you really are, it's going to be painful. There's going to be questions that you have to ask that you're not really ready to ask. And they'll keep coming back. The questions will keep coming back, obviously, until you get it, until the lesson, finally sinks in and you're connecting with your higher self enough to know that you have been engaging in destructive energetic dynamics between you and another person. And the energy of it, it's very nasty. You can tell when someone is toxic just by when they walk in the room. If that person walks in the room and you feel like a sense of dread, there's something energetic at play. Okay. Not just through fear, it could even be someone that you just met. You feel like this intuitive kind of, there's like a pushback. There's like, oh, this person is sucking the energy out of the room. You can feel it. You can feel that this person has wounds that have cycled around. It's this thick energy, okay? Very strong, that it brings other people down too, because that person who is supposed to be responsible for their energy has not really, there's usually wounding in there, that it's almost like a monster in a sense. I'm not saying people who have narcissism are monsters. I'm just saying that imagine having a bunch of wounds that you've never healed, okay, inside of you, really deep core wounds that have changed your psychological makeup, and you haven't addressed them. So you band-aid them constantly with 3D things, with, drugs, alcohol, sex, okay? The more you do that, the more you lose yourself instead of actually addressing the wound. And more narcissistic wounding is very painful for people who deal with this. And you always have a choice whether or not you want to engage in that dynamic. You always have a choice. And it's very important to just remember that. You have a choice. This other person, in a sense, does not, because they have not realized yet. And a lot of people, if they're really high on the narcissistic scale, okay, we don't want to talk about the dark triad here. That's just like, whew, that's craziness, okay? But most people with high levels of narcissism don't know how to address those wounds inside. So your power, your ability to address your own wounds is what will release you from attracting people like this into your life. Because once you heal your own wounds, you'll start noticing your vibe, so to speak, will start rising. You'll start being able to balance your spirituality, balance your life, okay? And for some reason, these people avoid you. They just start avoiding you because you're not pouring your energy out there. You're not opening your heart to every person who comes towards you on the street. Okay, if you're pouring your energy into everybody and helping everybody constantly, and I'm not saying you don't help people, but what I'm saying is that if you are pouring your energy out to other people all the time, you are leaving yourself susceptible to the dynamics of someone who sucks energy from others in using tactics, even tactics they don't realize they're using. Okay, most borderline personality people, they're very chaotic. They don't realize that they're doing that. They don't realize it. A lot of times they don't realize it. I'm not now if someone is Machiavellian in their approach, watch out. Okay, this person will but that's very rare that you meet someone who is purposefully manipulating you because they know how. It's very rare to meet people like that. But usually when you meet people who have high, wounding, have hurtful wounding, they will be creating cycles that keep them sucking energy from others to keep the wounds from opening. It feels like a black hole. It feels like no matter how much energy you pour into that person, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. It's not helping you. It's not helping them. It's going in circles. Okay. So it is up to the conscious person, the person who realizes this, to fix that in themselves, not to fix the other person. We can't fix, we can't help, we can't feed energy into that other person until they get the help that they need, until they are ready to face themselves. And it is going to be hard for most people who have high levels of narcissism to do that. It's going to feel very hard. Do I think it's not able to be addressed? Hell no. Okay. I think that people can do that, but it requires a lot of work, a lot, and a lot of consciousness, a lot of realization. So ask yourself, what is it about me that is attracting or allowing things like this into my life to take my energy, to take my livelihood, to take my emotions away? What is it that I'm doing? Because it's your responsibility. And, that's the best I can say about that. I know a lot about narcissism. If you guys liked this video, let me know. I could do more specific videos. I could talk about it in a more detailed manner. But really, I just wanted to get this message out there because I've been seeing some comments lately in my tarot readings where people talk about how they've invested into relationships where, they feel as though the other person is just taking and taking and taking. And when that happens, it's important to understand that you have a choice. Even with my tarot readings, when I do my tarot readings and people watch them, you always have a choice in what it is that you do with your energy, no matter what it is that I say. Okay? All right, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Again, if you want to hear more, ask some questions down in the comment section. If you'd like another video about this, if you'd like me to go more in depth, I can do that, about narcissistic dynamics, narcissists, empaths, nice people, mean people, whatever, if you liked this topic, okay? All right, everybody. I will see you soon. Bye.